Hi everyone, Internet Happiest Book Reader here. Today I want to talk about Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. This is the fourth novel of Sally Rooney if you didn't count her novellas like Mr. Salary. She first debuted in 2017 with Conversation with Friends, which is really good, but her most famous work I think is still Normal People from 2018, which she followed up a few years later in 2021 with Beautiful World, Where Are You? She had some of the most well fleshed out characters. All of her characters really gave off the feeling I cannot believe these are fictional characters. And all of her stories are about as good as each other, and usually which one you like more depends on your preference or which stories you read first. And they usually convey the same emotion as if the emotion you feel when you listen to Phoebe Bridgers' songs delivered as stories. And it's usually about relations that are not meant to be for different reasons. And that seems to also be the case for Intermezzo. There was a funeral for the father of the brothers Peter and Ivan, an awkward funeral just like many of its kind. Some time passed and Peter decided to visit Naomi's place, a girl the age of his brother that is too poor to even buy the books needed for her class. Instead of spending time with his brother who liked chess, Peter chose to spend some time with Naomi, whose friendship he had to keep secret because she's obviously too young to be anywhere near him. He's 32 halfway going to 33 while she's a struggling college girl trying to make a living. For this night, they at least didn't do anything besides talk and smoke some weed together before he had to leave to go to his ex Sylvia, who is aware of Naomi's economic situation with her landlord because Peter still talks to Sylvia about his life. The writing for Peter's part is in short bursts that makes it feel frantic. It is often hard to focus on what he is saying because he kept his sentences short and quick, often just a word or two. Thoughts that are spoken and unspoken mixed into sentences. It's chaotic like multiple voices describing multiple things at once, and it's written in Cormac McCarthy's style of writing with no punctuation, so there is no difference between talks, spoken words, or other people talking, which your brain had to get used to. It is not pleasant to read at first, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be because Peter is a lost soul who don't know what to do with his life. He loves Sylvia, but after an accident, they have broken apart years ago and now they're just friends. The only reason that he stayed in contact with his family is gone, and now here he is hanging with a woman who is too young for him. We have yet to meet his brother Ivan, but according to Peter, he's very different than him. Ivan is a chess prodigy who have all type of smart people attracted to him. Ivan might be an autistic, but they're not sure since they never checked. They are brothers who never have anything in common, and losing their dad who they've never close with only make them grow further apart, avoiding each other so they don't injure each other or themselves. But we don't have to guess long what kind of person Ivan actually is because we shifted to his perspective in the next chapter while he's in late dream about to go into chess competition. While waiting at the venue, an attractive woman named Margaret came over to help him with his stay at the place along with the club captain Ollie. Ivan's perspective is easier to follow. There's a delay between his talk and when he speaks them, and the pace stays consistently slow like that. For us the reader, it's easier to follow than the previous Peter, but it's not good for Ivan because it makes him look awkward, and when he finally speaks, it seems to always be on the wrong timing. So understandably, Ivan thought he's making a bad impression to Margaret, which turns out to not be true. Margaret actually had quite a good first impression on him, enough to go to the event which is him playing against 10 other chess players at once. This is one of the outermost experimental storytelling yet, even more so than her previous work, Beautiful World, Where Are You? The storytelling paints the different way people process emotion into talks and talks into action, how everyone is unsure all the same but unsure differently. Some people hold back what they say because they want to avoid judgment. Some people hold back what they say because they knew if they say them it will only hurt others and nothing else, and other many reasons. While Ivan is awkward with everyone, which includes Margaret, Margaret is also quite awkward to Ivan, but there is a chemistry between the two of them. They went with the chess team to the after party of the chess exhibition, and they went back together, just the two of them, to where Ivan is staying. At the start of the video, I mentioned Phoebe Bridgers, and what Margaret is feeling, they belong on a different team together that Margaret is feeling with Ivan, despite this being their first meeting, reminds me of the lyric from Punisher. They talked through the night and then they ended up sleeping together. Ivan gave Margaret her number before leaving back to Dublin, hoping that she would call him. Then he went back to Peter with his thousand Harriet talks, but at this point your brain should be more adjusted to this writing style and it is easier to go through. He welcomed Ivan with a call, inviting him to lunch together in a very awkward phone call, where Peter mostly judged his brother harshly, like brothers tends to do. He didn't see his brother as the kind and perspective guy that Margaret saw him as last night. Peter has also been on a combination of antidepressant and alcohol lately, which is a bad combination of downers if it's not clear enough. That's how he got through the day. going to court, teaching at school, meeting with Naomi about her situation with her landlord, then ending his day confessing his love to his ex Sylvia again, despite her body being incapable of sex, and despite it all always went wrong. Meanwhile, back in Leitrim, Margaret still thinks of Ivan. She got his number before he went back to Dublin, but she's yet to know what to do with it. She wants to talk about it with any of her friends, ask for their opinion or guidance or something, but she's not sure how they will judge her, not even her best friend. So for now, she continues her normal daily routine there. As for Ivan, back in Dublin, he had to also go back to his normal routine, if there's such a thing. He had a dog that's been living with his father, a dog that he had raised for 6 years before living in his current place, where no pets are allowed. But after his father's death, the dog Alexa has been staying with their mother who hates dogs and has been reminding them almost daily to take the dog or else. He had to run away back to his room because his roommate and his girlfriend walks into the living area, and thankfully he did that because his phone that he left behind in his room rang and he didn't notice. It's Margaret who finally decided to call, and after talking with each other briefly, he decided to go to Leitrim to visit her that night. Margaret comes to pick him up and they decided to spend the night at her house. Despite being the normal one in the family, Peter has no one to talk through his problem and his grief, but Ivan somehow found Margaret and they talked about the good part and the sad part of their life with each other. Awkwardly but comfortably, they listened to each other. Ivan stayed at Margaret's place that night and they spent the next day together until Peter had to call because Ivan didn't come to the lunch they promised together. Peter returned back to Sylvia, but they had a fight because of her insecurities not being able to have sex with him because of the pain caused by her car accident. Meanwhile, Naomi was illegally evicted from the home she is renting with Dublin police help, and Peter decided to invite her to stay at his place where they had sex. There's another interesting contrast between Sylvia and Naomi, where Sylvia, who is a famous law professor who can provide everything but sex, and Naomi, who is a poor college girl who have nothing at that moment but her own body, and both of their insecurities are very similar and very different at the same time. The next day, Ivan finally had that lunch with Peter where the conversation accidentally turns to Margaret, who Ivan mentioned as the woman she was seeing who had an ex-husband and is more than a decade older than him. Peter, who is insecure about his own relationship with Naomi, jumps to the worst conclusion about Margaret, and they both had a fight in the restaurant before Ivan left, vowing not to talk to his brother again and blocking his number. Another contrast between the characters. Peter, who don't think he's a good person, ashamed of himself and choose to bottle every thoughts inside, and Ivan, who is also not sure if he's a good person but always try to voice his unsureness, a quality that attracted Margaret further and further despite her being insecure about her being older than Ivan. And despite her wishes, both of them grew closer, and while their relationship is still unclear, they are happy with each other. Meanwhile, Peter now lives with Naomi while still talking with Sylvia, who is now just his friend, about his life with the homeless woman and trying his best to perform on trial at work. Sylvia convinced him to talk it up with Ivan because he's judging him too harshly without actually communicating with him. But Ivan has blocked his number, so the checkmark that he sent only ends at send. There is a general self-hate from Peter for not being able to cut off the people who he could have cut off, Sylvia, who he is still friends with despite wanting more, an impossibility that he can do without, then his mother, who he called by her first name, who have abandoned her family to look for her own happiness, while the two kids are left behind having to take care of their own father and themselves. And he just cut off Christine, their mother, from his life. There won't be someone who calls just to try to belittle his achievement in life so that they can feel more superior than their own son. At least on the surface, it is easier to see it just as that. Meanwhile, Ivan, who have blocked Peter, has started to go back to professional chess. He still goes out to Leitrim all the time to spend time with Margaret. Margaret still thinks that one day Ivan will leave her once she realizes that he is too old for him and then move on with his life, never returning back to Leitrim again. So they are still technically not with each other, and one day in Dublin, after much nagging from his mother, he decided to visit his dog Alexei, who has been spending his time in his mother's new husband's house with people who don't like or don't care about dogs to take care of them. He was feeling so happy being with his childhood dogs that he impulsively decided to take the dog away from the home. When Ivan went to his father's house with Alexei to spend some time there while looking for a new home for the dog, he met Naomi, who Peter has sent away because he's forcing himself to choose between Sylvia and Naomi, and decided to choose Sylvia, a choice that Sylvia did not agree with because she did not want to go back with Peter fully, since her inability to have sex filled her with too much insecurity to get back with him. Sylvia said a lot of things that are meant to hurt him in the worst way possible, and in his delirious state, Peter went to visit Naomi at the old house but found Ivan instead. Ivan, who just found out that Peter is with a younger girl but still judged Margaret harshly, decided to confront Peter, and they had a fight that turns physical, and Peter had to escape before he hurt his younger brother further. Another contrast between the character is Peter's relationship with the younger Naomi that he has from his friend because he's afraid of their judgment, and Margaret's relationship with the younger Ivan that she hides from her friend because she's afraid of their judgment. But this contrast can make it easier to judge Peter harshly because Margaret is such a kind soul while Peter can be an idiot at communicating his emotion. But despite how awkward Peter shows his feeling, he is always trying to mean well, preventing his brother from being an incel when he was younger, helping their father when he was sick, trying to keep his friendship with Sylvia, who in her selfishness cruelly keep him around as a friend, falling in love with Naomi despite still in love with Sylvia, and trying to have a relationship with a brother who never bothered to reach out to him. But somehow, things keep going worse instead of better. Whether he says the wrong thing or they say the wrong thing, everything just decided to turn into a mess which burdened him further. On a lesser novel is where the author tends to choose the cruelest route imaginable or a plot convenience happen that easily resolve everything without it making sense narratively, the story could easily turn into a cheaply written disaster or a cheaply written feel-good story. But people can find a way to grow and learn from their mistake. And the author progressed the story to that ending with such precision and care that it created one of the most moving conclusions to a story that I read this year. I give this a 4.75. What do you think? Let me know if I miss anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.